Hi there, this is Stephanie from the offices and you're watching BRANDCORE, where every week we speak with leaders, startups and all kinds of people in between from the food industry. And I guess being a creative agency, the focus is always very much on the creative side of running a food business, the brand strategy, the storytelling, the visual identity, the packaging and all those kinds of things. And we've never really sort of talked about why we started BRANDCORE, and I guess the reason is that when we do projects with clients, we always start by diving quite deep into the strategy, and that often means looking at the business and where the business is at in its journey and to what extent they understand their customer and their market position. And it's such fascinating stuff that we thought there would be a lot of value in turning this discovery type of conversation into its own live broadcast. So that's where we are today, and you can see a number of our recent BRANDCORE episodes right here on Instagram on IGTV. So today's awesome guest is Hazel MacTavish-West from SeedLab Australia. Hazel is an absolute veteran in the space of food innovation. I'm going to stop there because I think she's going to be the best person to introduce herself. And I am going to get Hazel dialing you in from SeedLab Tas.
No.
No?
Australia.
From SeedLab Tasmania.
I might be a veteran at food, but not Instagram.
Well, look, we've got tons of stuff to get through, so I thought we'd get started with a little bit about you. So you've got, a doctorate in food science. You've been involved in entrepreneurship for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and especially what a food consultant does, and at what stage of a brand's journey, is the best time to call in someone with your skill set?
Okay, thanks for that. So my training is very much in the biochemistry, particularly in plants, of flavours, colours and all the bioactives. So that's all the reasons you need to eat your fruit and veg. And I sort of evolved to become a food scientist, if you like, because I was working with a lot of the vegetable industry, helping them put health claims on their veggies or extend the shelf life of processed vegetables or develop more complex value-added foods, and progressed. I have a passion for product development. I always have had, and I just get visions for what could be. In terms of the businesses that I've worked with, many of them have been actually more advanced than startup. They've been sort of SMEs who've been looking for a bit of extra pizzazz, because I'm fairly specialised, so you don't have many people like me around. So I was called in by sort of larger companies in the UK, and also once I moved back to Tassie, businesses like Ashgrove Cheese and Daily Potatoes to help them value add their waste or their byproducts, if you like. And what I have learned over the last couple of years with working with startups more closely is that many of them come to wanting to do a food product with absolutely no background in food science. And so we almost end up having to backfill some of that science around what's the acidity of your food, what is the nutritional information in here, and what can you do about it. And so I guess the important thing is to be aware of all the support that is out there that you don't have to pay for. There's quite a lot of it out there, and then know when you do have a problem, like you can't get good enough shelf life or you just can't get the colour right, to actually have some people you can talk with, and they're not always easy to find.
Got you. So food innovation has been a big area that you're interested in, and you're talking about that very much from a sustainability perspective, which is exciting, because I've met with food scientists who are all about the things, how do you make a brownie healthy but take out all the fat and the sugar, which to me is sort of, well, that kind of wizardry is, it's great, but is that really what the world needs? So tell us a little bit about some of these innovative things coming through to help brands, achieve longer shelf life, but in a really earth-friendly way, and some of those other things you talked about?
Well, some of the interesting things that are coming out in the food industry and also changing the way food is produced for many people is the rise in urban farming, where sheds and everything from railway tunnels to the tops of supermarkets are being used to produce food. I think that's fascinating, and it's harnessing technologies that we've had around for a while in hydroponics or other methods of production. The evolution of plant-based alternatives, I think, is fascinating, and especially where that is actually incorporating real food products as close as possible that are not manufactured in a laboratory. I think we'll see a push to have more reality around some of those alternatives. And the big opportunity for many businesses to look at is what we call whole of crop utilization. So pretty much any primary produce, plant or animal, that's grown, if you imagine 100% of the crop is grown, 60 at the most, maybe 70 at a push of that actually enters the food system. So what do we do with that other 30-40%? And I think there's some really interesting things coming out with various processing technologies like freeze drying and microwave assisted thermal sterilization and all sorts of extrusion techniques that can be used to turn this whole of crop into food that we eat. And that may mean we can feed the growing population without having to grow more and more.
Wow, those sound so exciting, because when you think about how food has been produced for thousands of years, traditional communities didn't have any waste because they couldn't afford to. Now we can afford to have the waste, but we've got to be foresighted in thinking, well, hang on, this is actually a bad idea. So those technologies sound incredible. And what are some, I guess, hubs of that kind of where that sort of innovation is happening, either in Australia or around the world?
Well, there's more and more coming up all the time, and you're quite right. It does involve a hub. I know Northeast Victoria is looking at things like this around Gippsland area, and certainly also down here in Tassie. The challenge with Australia is that it's such a big country, and so we have seasonal variation for the same crop, and quite a lot of the processing technologies that's required are just too expensive for individual regions to all have to double up on. So it's a real challenge to think about what are the value adding things you can do that will actually end up being cost effective for the consumer, because once you start transporting raw produce around our country, it's A, expensive, and B, the food miles make it fairly unsustainable, and C, things deteriorate rapidly.
Yes. So
there's a lot of it's got to make sense financially, as well as, is it going to be any good when it gets there? But there's much more cluster activity happening all around the country, really.
Wow. Well, that was actually an unintentional word that I used then, but that's such a valid point that you make, that there have to be these hubs and clusters. Otherwise, it's very impractical and difficult to roll out. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. So I guess let's kind of talk about SeedLab Tasmania, which I understand was the pilot program, and that's now being formalised into SeedLab Australia. So, sorry about the mix-up of the Instagram handle. Can you tell us how you're bringing all of this expertise into SeedLab, and I guess what are the main objectives of the organisation?
Okay, so just to explain the two handles, SeedLab Australia is a sort of new thing. So either of them get to me and to our team, so that's fine. SeedLab Tasmania started, I was lucky enough to have a Churchill Fellowship a few years ago, looking at exactly what we've just been talking about, actually, how particularly vegetable producers, could access equipment to enable them to process their crop themselves into value-added food products.
Wow.
And do that without spending $10 million on a piece of equipment, how to be nimble, what technologies to use. And I got the opportunity to look through all sorts of food factories in Europe. It was fascinating. When I came back, I went all around the country sharing this information, and pretty much took a year out of my consultancy, which I'd been a consultant for 20 years. And when you do that, you know, and you pay, you have to, I'm just like you, all the other startups and other businesses here, that I don't have a salary. I have to go and earn my money. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And I had a lot of people coming to talk to me about, well, you know, I want to get a better shelf life on this, or I need some flavors on this, or what can I do with this waste stream? And I'm, you know, they were startups. They did not have, they were pre-revenue. And then I sort of went looking to see what support was out there, and I found the federal government's incubator support program. And like I explained earlier about getting a vision for products, I actually just saw how we could bring together a lot of the people that I knew who knew different aspects of the supply chain and the value chain, and get them to basically bring their expertise in, put together a program of training, and then provide those connections. And so we just embraced this from a commercial perspective from the very beginning. And I had a long-standing relationship with Woolworths at a really great level, because I'd been working in the vegetable industry with people like Hewson's Farm and Daily Potatoes and others. So I contacted them and said, do you want to be part of this? And they were very keen to be involved, and have been a fantastically active part of our Tasmania incubator. SeedLab Tasmania is specifically for food and drink and agri businesses, because they're the businesses that I know, and I think we've got to start with something you know.
Yep.
And we're there because of the federal funding to help them become export ready. That's the funding's focus. And what that has evolved into as a result of COVID is really, thank goodness for COVID actually, because we now have an online learning platform and an online delivery, hybrid delivery method, which you can hear from some of the businesses. I noticed some of them are here today, you know, has really worked. We've worked hard to make things vibrant. These people behind me are all the people who've been through the program, and we know them all, and they know each other. And so we've actually wiped out some of the major highways around Tasmania and just brought everyone together. So this is Andy, hang on, I'll get my finger working. This is Andy Jackman making cheese. And she could very easily have been doing that if the computer had been allowed into the dairy while we were Zooming. So there's all sorts of ways we've actually enabled people to do it easier, more easily.
Yeah. And they're one of your success stories, aren't they? Which we'll get to in a minute. But so you said that SeedLab Tasmania started with very much an agribusiness focus, and you've now succeeded in attracting this massive amount of funding from Woolworths, $4 million, I believe. And is the focus there just not just agribusiness, but value added? Is it wider than the agricultural products?
So the focus for SeedLab Australia is for specific types of products that Woolworths have identified as being category growth areas.
I see.
They're also products that we've already had quite a lot of engagement with. So plant-based, for example, products associated with health and wellness. And also we may be looking at personal care products as well. That's something that I've had experience of as well, and very much sustainably produced products. What at this stage it isn't about is raw fresh produce, so it's not fruit and veg, and it's not alcohol either. We've done a lot of alcoholic businesses in SeedLab Tas. We are hoping to continue SeedLab Tasmania for some of the more artisanal lifestyle, agritourism, cellar door type businesses, and we could also do that more broadly. But SeedLab Australia for Woolworths is very much focused on areas they're looking at.
Got you. And I mean, that must be quite unique in the retail sector in Australia. We did a quick look and we sort of couldn't find anything like that to that extent of a company supporting small companies. What is it that what is it for Woolworths that's valuable about this partnership? Because just speaking from various small businesses that we've worked with to date, it's always been a bit of a David and Goliath sense that for small businesses, there's been a massive barrier to actually being taken on board by someone like Woolworths. And they sort of prefer to, I guess the impression has been that they prefer to control their supply chain and they go out and pick the suppliers. But tell us about what it is that Woolworths values about supporting these types of businesses.
Well, what we do know from the way what Woolworths have said is that they're very keen right across the country to increase the amount of locally procured products that are available that may only be available in the stores nearby.
Wow.
And that's certainly the case here in Tassie. And we've met with other category managers who say the same about their region. What we've also learned through experience is that they're very happy to put a product into maybe 3 to 5 stores, either locally or in the case of Tassie, across Tassie, see how they go. And then, you know, that gives the business the chance to understand how to work with Woolworths and how to supply it, and also to scale up production. So they are genuinely very supportive of this.
Wow.
And I can speak from experience, and I have seen nothing but good about this. But what they see that SeedLab does is we take the pain out of finding new suppliers, because a lot of people think they're ready to pitch to Woolworths, but they may not have their labels legally correct. They may not have the right insurance. They may not have the appropriate HACCP plans. So we put all that in place and also help them pitch, and also help them then with all the negotiations. So it's very much, we hold their hands, and Woolworths don't have people to do that. So
right. Got you. And this is a bit of an unscripted question, but it is one of those big, I guess, questions that our clients come to us with is that's this kind of dream thing to be able to pitch to Woolworths. So do you mind sharing just a few quick tips about the secrets to pitching successfully to a big retailer like that?
That's a very good question.
Probably a massive question.
Yep. Well, that's the answer. They are human too.
Yes.
So they're not looking for all singing, all dancing. What they are looking for is that you are able to communicate what you have and the benefits, and you know where it fits. You've done your research. You know that they've got a gap for this. You've checked out the competitors. You know your costs of production. You know your capability of production, and you're able to have a conversation about that in less than 30 minutes. That's the big skill. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I guess that's a really exciting opportunity to young brands out there, is that with this shift in Woolworths, that instead of it being that if they got a new product on board, it had to be supplied to, you know, hundreds of stores across the nation. And now, as long as you know the demographics, and let's say you only want to sell to Woolworths Metro or whatever it is, if you can articulate that clearly and sort of show exactly how your product's going to fit in that space, then you've got the ingredients of a good pitch by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and also that you're prepared, that you go in early enough that you are able to change, and you're also asked questions, because sometimes you may think you've got you know where it fits, but you know they may see a totally different offer. And what would be really good is if you're about to repackage something, for example, that you actually talk to them about that and don't just make changes like that, because their thinking is sometimes different to what you expect. So communication is king.
Yes. That's actually, we're working with one of our clients at the moment to change their packaging, and it's been a very collaborative process that's gone. It's actually extended over a couple of months, and it's been actually really exciting to see the the input they've had and into how that's shaped the final results. So that is interesting to see that that's across the board now. Okay, lovely. And just, you know, a couple of things I'd love to ask is maybe steer the conversation back to Tassie for a bit. First of all, Tasmania has, you know, decades of reputation as this source of fine food. You know, King Island dairy is very established. The whole salmon industry, a lot of the stone fruits. There's Grim, what is it, Cape Grim, the beef. There's the water. There's really a lot of categories. How has that evolved, do you think? If anything, the Tasmania, the type of food that's coming out of Tasmania now.
How has it evolved? Sorry, I don't know.
Like are there new product categories coming out of Tasmania? So, for example, the plant-based or more value-added, like different flavors of cheese or whatever.
Yeah, I think it varies between the different scales of business. Really, a lot of the bigger businesses have evolved by value adding, like for example Houston's Farm, who produce really good quality lettuce leaf, and Daily Potatoes, who grow really good quality potatoes, have value added with more complex offers, like a ready to eat potato salad or a mash with gravy, or in the case of Houston's Farm, a more complex salad offer that's got protein and all the rest of it. And, you know, with salmon, we've seen different types of smoked salmons coming through, and salmon's a bit of a hot topic down here at the moment in Tassie. And in terms of some of the smaller producers, we've seen a lot of creativity in how they get their products to consumers. I think Bruny Island Cheese led the way with this, with their cheese boxes, a bit like Cheese Therapy are doing. And many of the businesses are now looking for direct to consumer. And also, when tourists have come here and found an amazing product, they've been better at continuing the conversation afterwards and keeping the product being sent to them. So wow, so incredible development and no end in sight by the sounds of it. Sounds like there's tons of exciting things ahead. We also have a really vibrant farm gate market scene, which has been a really great point for many of the smaller producers to start at, and then go on to take up premises and then to start bigger distribution. It's a fantastic hotbed of innovation. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's really great to know. And so I guess speaking of innovation, you know, bringing it back to SeedLab Tasmania. So you've got Red Cow Dairy is now, I understand, due to actually appear on Woolworths shelves from September. Wow, that's great. Yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about them and some of your other success stories and what they're doing that's right? What are they doing? Yeah, sure. So this is Red Cow Organics Persian Feta, which is going to be going in store right across Tassie from September. And I know that Matt, and this is Andy here, I pointed to a minute ago. This is Andy making cheese up in Aldina. They brought their Aussie red cows across from Victoria, can you believe it, to Tassie to get better water and better grass. And they make a really, really delicious range of cheeses. And their listing sort of arose out of just a conversation, really. Once one of our contacts from Woolworths was down and just showing him what they had, because they were ready to scale. And, you know, there's a lot of fetas out there, but it's around getting local production into stores, and also then being able to, you know, the funnel of products that's coming is of interest. So there's a sort of longevity to the conversation. Yeah. This is another one, Mac Coffee. This guy, Michael, he actually had exposure to Woolworths at our launch event last February. He has a really unique range. It's a cold drink, non-dairy coffee drink that's got a few other herbals as well. Wow. And they liked it so much that they basically started conversations straight away, and he's negotiated that himself. He's done a great job. And we're just working on quite a few other ones. Some of them are in the alcohol sector and looking to get listings that way. But
That's another
Yeah,
big
it's sort of,
growth area, isn't it, in Tasmania? The rise of distilleries and breweries down there. Yeah.
I think there's a new one every day. I can't even keep up with them. Sometimes people mention this certain distillery, and I'm like, haven't heard of that one before.
We were speaking with Bacardi a few weeks back, and Sarah Nichols, the marketing director, was saying that we were saying how the change in legislation's actually enabled that. So to think that for decades legislation was the only thing that held people back, and actually there are all these talented people out there with resources and ideas and networks, and they were just ready to get it going. Are there, I guess, are there sort of any other things? Again, this is a slightly unscripted question for you, but just on that note of legislation and things that kind of need to happen to get more of these products out to more buyers and even abroad, what are some, I guess, important things in your eye that should be happening at a legislative level?
Oh, that's a big question, unscripted.
Sorry.
I think some of the challenges around particularly export are that where you have to be, the product has to be on the list that's approved for import in the country you want to export to. And I know that's been a challenge, particularly with China. I think some of the other challenges at the moment with the relationship that we've got, or that's changed recently with China, is that everyone's now looking at other countries and what they can export there. And in Tassie, we're lucky we've got a really engaged wide range of government support that helps people access this export knowledge, and we have a group of people who on the trade team who are actively engaged with it and very experienced. I think that to some extent things are a bit easier in Tassie because it is smaller. Yes. And you can get high level access. I mean, I'm not dropping names here, but I was literally chatting with the Premier a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think that would happen so easily in Victoria or New South Wales. Probably because they're busy doing other things. But people are very accessible down here in Tassie, and I think that creates a really good atmosphere for growth.
Yeah, awesome, lovely. Well, that's been really interesting to learn about that. I guess we'll sort of end with two questions. I guess the first one is, what would be your advice to other food companies out there who are keen to put an idea into fruition and start along that whole certification, branding, marketing, and distribution, and all those other steps they have to take?
Well, the best advice I would give is you really need to want to do this. You're going to have a big drive. And the second thing is research. Everybody comes to me and says, oh, I've got this unique product. And I'm going, really? Is it really unique? Have you checked the market out? Have you checked the competition out? Have you checked that actually there's a market in the gap, that somebody actually wants this? And then the third thing is to make sure you've got some resources. And I don't necessarily mean money, although that really does help. And it is really hard to grow a business when you have no money at all. I know, because I've tried it. But I've found that it's really helpful if you have one area of expertise that's relevant to what you're trying to do. So if you want to develop a food product, but you're actually a teacher, which we do have happening, then it would help if you're really good at social media, or you're really good at, or you've got a lot of money and you can pay people or something. But if you're a chef, you probably have a bit of an advantage there because you understand a bit more about how food works and maybe how to make things last. But we've got one business who's amazingly good at social media and Omnisalt, and that really helps because she's able to get some sales happening earlier, and that will help build everything else and make everything else possible.
Yeah, but it's a tough slog, isn't it?
It's hard work, and the fact is sometimes the best decision you can make is to stop. Yes. Have you had that where people have got to the end of the program and just thought, I actually can't do this? We have had that, and we've helped them come out of that not feeling that that was a failure, because actually failing fast is also allowing yourself to fail, if that's the most appropriate word, because once you've tried, if you've tried everything you can and there's a really good reason why you can't actually make this succeed, which could simply be you don't have enough money, you may not want to go and get a big loan or get an investor. You actually want to keep ownership, in which case this isn't going to work. So and knowing when to stop is really important. And we've had businesses that have both reduced the size of their goal so that it stays a business that they want to be involved with, and others that have decided, actually, we're going to get out altogether, and we've helped them with that. And that's legitimate.
I like that variation, reducing the size of the goal or leaving altogether. That is so there's this I think Elon Musk made this quote once, that if you want to achieve something and you sleep 3 hours like he does, you might achieve that thing in a year. But if you've got a lot of other sort of things going, you might achieve that thing in 15 years. So I guess that's kind of what you mean, isn't it? Is that goal important enough that you're going to just go hell for the leather and just achieve it within a very short time frame, or are you going to be a bit kinder on yourself and do other things at the same time?
Well, one of the things, the key thing that when you talk to our businesses that have gone through the program, they share with each other is, and then Hazel reminded me to focus, because you can't develop 6 products at once and launch them, or you can't do 3 different aspects of your business and expect them all to succeed. You just can't. You've got to focus. You know, hopefully SeedLab helps with that, and we are here for the next 2 years with SeedLab Australia. That's literally just starting. And there's an online application form at seedlabaustralia.com.au.
Great.
And also for people who feel they could help some of the businesses, there's a registration to participate too.
Lovely. So that's for SeedLab Australia, and for SeedLab Tasmania, we see that you're still doing a lot of workshops. You've got a lot of events coming up. So if people want to get involved, they should, I guess, follow you on Instagram and sort of find a way of getting in touch and getting involved.
Sure. So we've got some good master classes coming up. There's one next week on developing premium food products, and 2 weeks later on health and nutritional claims for food. They're free for startups and students Australia-wide, and all you need to do is contact me for a free code and then book for those. They're actually more easily accessible on our Facebook page, SeedLab Tasmania. And we're going to continue that masterclass concept throughout SeedLab Australia. And what we do is they're a real deep dive into various topics with global gurus. We're not trying to keep everything at the startup level. We're actually trying to grow everything. So getting people in who are doing this for multinationals as well.
That's so valuable. That's fantastic. Yeah, good. Well, you've answered my last question, which was, I guess, what are your objectives for SeedLab Tasmania? And it sounds like increasing the profile, increasing the caliber of the people involved, and growing the program. Sounds like that's for a bit.
For SeedLab Tasmania, we're basically trying to confirm funding for further years, and that's a work in progress at the moment. Otherwise, it finishes at the end of this year. But just SeedLab Tasmania is very different to SeedLab Australia, and I think it's important to understand the differences, and just hope we can continue the momentum that we've got going here in Tassie.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Hazel. And that went really smoothly. I'm glad we sorted that out with the different tech glitches. And
I'm sorry about that.
We've had so many little dramas, and our faces are blushed and sweat's broken out. So it is quite funny. And in the end, no one cares. Everyone's had a great time. And look, we've had such a great amount of visitors. So thanks again, and we'll be in touch.
Oh, thanks very much. And thanks for everyone who joined. It was great to see you all.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone. You've been listening to BRANDCORE, and we'll be sharing this on IGTV for anyone who wants to watch later. Enjoy your Friday afternoon. Bye.
Bye.